Good afternoon. I know this here is the graveyard shift, right? Right after lunch, you've just finished a panel, and this is cheating here. Even before I started, you started the timer. So anyway, so there was this guy that was a chicken farmer. He had several other animals on his farm, and one day he was there in his farm minding his business, looking after his chicken when a car drove by. It was an Audi A6. Sort of the low-end car that a Yash Mahadik would drive, that he would send to buy some chicken from the market. All right, so this car was driving by and it stopped, and out from the car jumped a suited gentleman who went up to him and said, I see that you're a chicken farmer. So he said, yes. How did you guess that? With all this chicken around, the statement of the obvious, you must be a consultant. The guy said, yes, I am a consultant, and you know what? How many eggs do your 100 chicken produce? So for every 100 chicken, I get about 300 eggs. So he says, this consultant says, I'm a management consultant, I also do leadership, I also do productivity, I also do HR and technology and all that. With all my skills, I can make your chicken double their productivity. Would you be interested? So he says, okay, why not? Let's give it a shot. So he gave him an idea, and to change the feed a little bit, and 25 chicken died. So this guy was left with 75, and he said, you gave me an idea to improve productivity and my chicken are dying. He says, no, actually there might be some miscalculation. Let's try a different technique. And then they tried something else, and this time 50 chicken died. So this farmer said, where are we going with this? So this chap said, well, there's another tweak that we need to do. But don't worry, not only will the productivity go up, we'll get more chicken as well. So eventually it'll be fine. So he gave him another idea, the rest of the chicken died. So this guy said, all my 100 are gone. So he says, well, I have a lot more ideas, but you don't have any chicken left. So that's the consultant joke of the day. We're done with it. Let's listen to a consulting presentation. And typically there is this thing that I'd like to start with, which is those that can't do. You know the adage, right? Those that can't do, teach. Those that can't do, teach. Those that can't do or teach, consult. Those that can't do or teach or consult, become partners at consulting firms. That's the second joke of the day. It's out. All right. So what we're going to talk about now is a couple of pieces of research that I want to quickly talk through some data with you, and then talk about the whole topic of purpose and meaning and how it applies to organizations, and not in the esoteric sense, but in the more tactile sense. So the social enterprise is here to stay. And that's what our research is telling us. So what do social enterprises do? How are they different from organizations? They are, very simply put, not only profit motivated. So this is not about being an NGO or not-for-profit, or not that kind of stuff. A social enterprise is one which holistically looks at the ecosystem that it thrives in and is driving things that are greater, for the greater good, and not just profit-oriented. So we've been tracking this research for about 9 years, and we've seen a palpable increase in this happening over the last couple of years, with more organizations coming into this fold and declaring that this is who they want to be, and this is the purpose with which they want to exist, and this is how they want to function. In India, of course, we have a lot of organizations. Most if not all public sector undertakings, for example, are social enterprises. Many organizations, whether you take the Tatas or any of the large groups, have purposes which are much larger than producing profit. However, this global phenomenon has started gathering a lot more momentum now than it used to, and it's being talked about. If you combine that with the next fact, which we're finding in our last 12 to 15 years of millennial and emerging workforces research, is what we call the rise of the individual. So just a couple of quick factoids and I'll move on. One is, more and more people want to work with organizations that have a social commitment, an explicit social commitment. And more people do not want to work for organizations that are primarily profit motivated, right? And this is not just in the emerging workforces, it's not just in the gig workers, but it's in all types of employee arrangements that you might want to look at. So if you combine these two, what we are seeing, and this is the fact that we want to state, is that purpose for an organization is certainly important, but meaning for the individual is becoming more and more critical. Do you all know who this is? As the title suggests, this is Greta. This is the teen sensation who sat outside her school every Friday in Sweden and protested, and this is her protest. I know there's some jokes going on around her. I have grown-up children, but I have a nephew who's 14 years old who wants to bunk school every Friday and sit outside and demand climate change. So the Gretas of the world are angry. Yes? In fact, you all have heard about this, right? So no news. Have you heard of Timaka? Only in the last 3 years we've heard of Timaka. She has planted over 8,000 trees. She's been doing this for over 66 years, and she says that the reason she plants trees is because it makes her happy. I'm trying to toggle back. Greta has purpose. Timaka has meaning. So you tell me, do we need in this world today more Timakas or more Gretas? Shout out. Why? Let me tell you something. The momentum that Greta has garnered, or Malala garnered, by using and talking to the broader world is also absolutely essential as individuals that are going to contribute. So what we need are more Timakas and more Gretas. We need greater leverage, we need greater messaging going around, and we need absolutely people that are going to look for their meaning. And that's what we need to tap into, because that's what the social enterprise now and in the future is all about. Okay, so I'm going to talk to you about a company. Anybody has heard of Qualphone? It's not a big company. It's got 16,000 employees, maybe $600 or $500 million in revenue. No, then I can say whatever I want. No, but honestly, this is a Mexico headquartered call center company, but the story is not about Mexico. In the Philippines, they have 9,000 employees in 3 centers. They do only voice, primarily voice. In the Philippines, particularly in Cebu, and they're not in Manila, they're in the far-flung provinces. They start off in Cebu. In Cebu, in the BPO industry, the average attrition is about 40 to 50%. These guys have 3 to 5% attrition. So is this an NGO? Is this a different kind of company? Yes, it's a very different kind of company. I'm going to share with you their values, which is, they call it STRIDES. STRIDES is actually an acronym, and I can, if we had more time, we could go through all of it, but here's what I want you to look at. Teamwork, results, integrity, service, encouragement, dignity, values that most, if not all, organizations out here would have in one way, shape, or form or the other. Yeah? So it's pretty common. But here's what sets them apart which is right here, one of their core values is spirituality. Now, is this a best practice? Am I suggesting any organization out here to imbibe spirituality as a core value? Not at all. It works for them. They are a consecrated company. A consecrated company is one that has dedicated all of its services to the Catholic Church. So this is not a religious discourse. This is not about the Roman Catholic Church. But this is about what works for this company. They hire single mothers. There are a lot of single mothers in Philippines that are destitute, that don't know what to do. They train them from scratch. They give them greater depth and greater meaning, give them a purpose to live, and give back to the society, and they have 3 to 5% attrition in a market where apparently 40 to 50% is the norm. It works from a business perspective, and it works as a social enterprise. Now, I was giving a similar example a few years ago. I don't know if it's still true, but the Lemon Tree hotels, if you get promoted from a certain rank to a supervisory rank, you know what the reward was? Any guesses? In food and beverage, which is, they're facing the customer, the guest. Any guesses as to what the reward was for the promotion? If you became a supervisor or a manager, you could grow a ponytail. Right? And these are young people, so some of us out here will say, how is Anand going to grow a ponytail? No, why was that so important? It's because in the hotel industry, you're so well groomed all the time, etc. The ponytail is literally like I'm cutting that shackle. I was repeating this example to an IT company once, and the CTO sort of took me literally and said, I've been asking my guys to grow ponytails, they just don't want to. It's not the ponytail, it's not the spirituality, it's whatever that little nugget that will work for you is going to be all about. Okay, so that's at the enterprise level. So I want to now distinguish, and for a couple of minutes spend purpose versus meaning. This is an important distinction to make because very often we use these interchangeably, and our employees and leaders get a little lost in this. So very quickly, the way we look at it is that purpose is what an organization can drive. An organization can't drive individual meaning. It gives you context, it gives you clarity, and it has to be candid. There's no corniness as far as purpose is concerned. So you may say that it's more goal-oriented, more destination-oriented. And this is what could be, and I'm not saying this is true, this is what could be more vision and mission related, whereas meaning is a lot more culture and values related. Meaning is very difficult to explain. If you ask any employee as to what are you looking for in your life, they might find it difficult to explain. Some might be very articulate and might nail it. Purpose is a lot more logical and you can nail it, whereas meaning is more emotional, it's more heart related, it's more about engagement. It's far more energizing to the individual. All right, so I'm sure you're familiar with both these frameworks. I'm just showing it to you to blend them together. On the left is Maslow, when motivation meets performance, which is Mihai Csikszentmihalyi. So if you combine these two, one talks about performance, the other talks clearly about motivation. If you combine these two, what do you get? You get what every consulting presentation should have, which is a 2x2 matrix. But let me take you through it, because this here is the point. Purpose on the x-axis, meaning on the y-axis. For organizations that have nailed the purpose, that get their employees to understand their vision, that get their employees to drive things around, you get very competent professionals. When neither purpose nor meaning is absolutely nailed down, you get a performer. It's a transaction with that employee. Then you have these employees that want to come in and make a difference. Imagine if one of you gave a job to Greta or Timaka. They come in and they want to change the world, but your organization is going to kill them. Well, certainly mine is. So you get a disillusioned seeker. So what's our job? Our job as professionals is to drive people with passion who can achieve. And very often we are asked, how do I get my team to be a lot more passionate? And we tell them this, that you cannot get people to be passionate. You help them find purpose, you help them fulfill their meaning, passion will follow. When passion comes, and you remember the Mihai connection, there will be super achievers. Last chart, what can organizations do? 3 things. How many of you hire by asking people, what do you want to do in life? Versus, where do you see yourself 5 years from now? It's a rhetorical question, right? So more of us clearly ask about career growth, etc. But if you want to engage with the workforces of the now and the future, it doesn't matter what the age is, whether it's a 107-year-old Timaka or a 16-year-old Greta, try and see if you can map what meaning they are looking for to the purpose that your organization serves. Step 1. 2 is learning has to be a lot more holistic than technical competency driven, or even the sort of superficial behavioral competency driven. So let's look at how can we help, and there are a lot of people that are going to be giving some sessions on helping holistic learning, helping the employee engage more holistically with themselves and what they want. That could also mean that some of them may decide that they don't belong in your organization, and that's fine. It's not about being everything to everybody, but there will be a bunch of super achievers that will learn and continue to evolve and grow your organization. And the third is look at adaptable structures. And that's why that visual on the left is a very critical one. It's not about trying to drive a team that is going to hierarchically or on a command and control basis be rigid and deliver results. There will be a time for that during crises, during times when you don't have really a choice. Those are the ones that we need to talk about. But by and large, an adaptable organization encompasses the ability for the team and the individual to configure themselves and produce results the way they want to. The MC stole my thunder by talking about Viktor Frankl, who's one of the greatest survivors of the Holocaust, and luckily she chose a different quote from the one that I'm going to close with, which is very relevant for us in organizations. Those that have a strong why can really figure out any how. They can almost. Look, this guy was in a concentration camp, and he says almost. So don't push it with your employees. So the point is that we have to help our employees find their why through our purpose and help them discover their meaning through their own search, and then try and bring the two together. Thank you very much. Do we have time for questions, or we're done? Okay, 1 or 2 questions, please. Yes, sir. Bit clinical or cynical? Cynical.
Would there be a financial cost associated with what you are saying as finding the purpose of being? Because you would have to compromise on something somewhere.
Okay. I don't think so. So one of what bears testament to me and this statement is, if you guys have read the book Firms of Endearment, data shows, and this is US data as usual, but primarily US data, companies like Patagonia and so on and so forth, proves that organizations that actually help their employees ground themselves with purpose and meaning, they might use different words, are a lot more profitable than, and sustainable and all of that, than the typical S&P 500 sort of index that they've compared with. So just based on that data set, as well as you look at how Indian Oil is doing, right? You look at how these organizations that look at social purpose, that look at nation building, You look at how the Chinese companies are doing, the state-owned enterprises. I'm not talking about the private enterprises. Tomorrow I'm going to be double-clicking on the growth model difference between state-owned enterprises and foreign investor enterprises in China, and state-owned or PSUs and private enterprises in India. And data is telling us that those organizations, they may not pay much, they may not promote as much, they may not, do the traditional things that the commercial enterprises do, but are far more powerfully motivated with their people in achieving, and super achieving than several other organizations. We can take this offline, but in our humble opinion, backed by data, we don't think so. We don't think there's certainly a hard dollar cost to it, but is that cost not going to be compensated by the benefit? Absolutely not. Okay? Just one question. Awesome. The rest of you, thank you very much. Appreciate it. Thanks.